Hi everyone. We are now going to review Chapter 10, Caribbean Islanders and South Americans. We're going to concentrate today on Caribbean Islanders. Okay, so just to start off, Latinos from the Caribbean islands in South America, they seem quite different from each other because their homelands will vary from the tropics to snow-capped mountains. Their ethnic backgrounds are Native American, Spanish, Portuguese, French, British, Danish, Dutch, African, Asian, Indian, Chinese, Italian, German, and Japanese. They have all these influences mixed together, but there is some similarities. There are some commonalities. The dishes with native ingredients and foods were introduced from Europe, Africa, and Asia. Okay, so there's that going on, and there is a preference for strong, spicy flavors. Okay, so here's the region we're talking about. Um, right now, it's just the Caribbean. All right, so let's take a look. Cuba is the largest of the island. There are more than 1,000 tropical islands that are going to stretch from Florida to Venezuela. They are uniformly scenic, okay, with tropical warmth and torrential rains that provide an ideal climate for lush plant cover and numerous indigenous fruits and vegetables. All of these islands share a history of domination by foreign powers and the subsequent political turmoil. And the mixture, the interrelationships, and indeed the intermarriage of Native Indians, Europeans, Africans, and Asians have produced an extremely diverse population. Okay, so the largest group of Hispanic population are in America are residents of Puerto Rico, followed by Cuba and the Dominican Republic. Okay, Puerto Rican citizens of Puerto Rico are actually U.S. citizens as well. So over half of the population of Puerto Rico live in the United States. And the number of Puerto Ricans living in New York is almost double that of living in the main capital city of San Juan. The majority of Cubans came to America after Fidel Castro overthrew Batista. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we'll get into a little bit about the Dominican Republics here as well. Okay, so um, there were four immigrant groups from the Dominicans. The Trujillo era, they were political dissidents. Post Trujillo, they were just a trickle due to improved conditions. Then we had the Flotilla group, they were escaping oppressive poverty. And those who have left since, they are better educated, seeking employment opportunities here in the United States. Now, immigrants from the Caribbean vary in both economic and educational attainment. Okay, so the majority of Cubans came to the U.S. after Fidel Castro, like I said, overthrew Batista in 59. Most of the initial 150,000 were from the upper socioeconomic group. They were fleeing the constrictions of communism. We're going to address that again when we get to food intake and then once again with counseling, things like that. The airlifts from 1965 to 73 increased that number to 700,000. And the Mariel boat lift in 1980 brought another 100,000. Okay, so which is fine because there's no U.S. quota on immigrants from Cuba. Okay, let's talk a little bit about socioeconomic status. Okay, that's going to vary. 28% of all Puerto Ricans live in poverty, and higher than the general white and Hispanic population. It is a situation where free travel between the mainland, which is the United States, and the island may actually hamper socioeconomic improvement, right? If you're not steady in one place or the other, it's going to be difficult. And second generation Puerto Ricans living outside of New York City actually are doing better economically because they are attaining higher education. In New York City, the Puerto Ricans fill that gap that are left by the African Americans who are moving up. Now, the Cubans have a higher median income than the non-Hispanic whites. It should be noted that Cubans came to America as political refugees. Okay, so their immigration was not by choice. Okay, it was by necessity. Many were from, as I mentioned, a higher socioeconomic standing. And even though they lost everything, they brought with them these values of the importance of education and financial success. Dominicans have the same median earnings as other Hispanics, but less than the U.S. population. It's important to note here that the African heritage of some Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Jamaicans, and Haitians open them to the biases that are felt towards African Americans, which they have not themselves experienced in their own homeland. Good. Okay, so let's take a look at worldview. Ethnic identity is strong, okay, within the communities in the United States. Spanish is probably going to be spoken at home. Caribbeans are more likely to use English as their first language.